In this lesson, we're going to learn about classes in Python and how to create objects using constructors for those classes. So when you want to make a class, you use the keyword class and then give your class a name. So let's say we're going to make a class called cat, and this is going to be a class that creates an object. Now we're going to define some attributes for the cat object. So some things that data we can capture regarding a cat. And when we define that, we use a double underscore and then INIT and another double underscore. That stands for initialize. That's going to initialize or create these data fields that we specify. So first we type the word self, and that's going to assign the attributes that follow to the cat object itself, so self for the cat object, and then some things we can know about our cat. So the name of the cat, the weight of the cat, the age of the cat, the color, right? Those are some of the attributes that we can define regarding our cat, data that we can capture. And then we'll assign these attributes that get passed in as arguments to this constructor for a cat object, right? Each of these is going to get assigned to the cat itself. So we'll say self.name equals name, whatever value gets passed in and stored as name here, right? That value, that string, is going to get assigned to the cat object's name. Then we'll have self.weight, and that'll be the cat's weight that gets passed in as the argument. Self.age will be the age of the cat, and self.color, okay, that will be the color of the cat. Now when we want to create a cat object, we give it a variable identifier. So for instance, my cat Max, right? Max, we'll call him Maxie. Okay, my cat Maxie, he is a cat. So we're going to call the cat object constructor. And now we've got our cat. We're going to enter his name as a string. So his name is Max. Then his weight, and Max is about 4.5 pounds. His age, Max is 3, and then his color, he's gray. Okay, I could also create another cat object, a different cat called Fluffy. Fluffy is also a cat, right? The name, maybe Fluffy is just a kitten, so 2.3 pounds, 1 year old, and orange. Okay, now when I want to retrieve information from the objects, the cat objects that I just created, I could say, for instance, print Max weighs. Oh, well, actually, we could do Maxie.name, right? Because that's his attribute is stored as Max, plus, and then we can concatenate on weighs, and then a plus, and then Maxie.weight, and plus, and then, and for our other cat object, let's do the same thing, but this time we'll get information about Fluffy. So Fluffy.name is, and then we'll do Fluffy's age. Fluffy's 1 will make that singular. Okay, let's go ahead and test this out. Oh, whoops, not a float. Oh, we're going to need to cast the weight as a string, since that's a float. And then same thing for the age. We're going to need to cast that int as a string so that we can concatenate it on to the rest of our print. I'll hit OK. Okay, and there we go. So Max weighs 4.5 pounds, right? That's the information that we passed by argument into the constructor for the cat object for Max. And then Fluffy, right? Fluffy is 1 year old. That's the information that we're getting when we created the Fluffy object, right, from the cat class. And it initialized these 4 variables, right? Name, weight, age, and color. And we were able to retrieve that information for both cats. Okay, another thing that your classes can include, in addition to the constructor, right, which is what we made up here with the initialize keyword, we can also have functions, methods that, that this cat object can do. So let's say our cat can eat, and we'll have the cat itself, right, the object itself gets put in there, and then the food that our cat likes to eat. Okay, now whenever our cat eats, the weight of that cat is going to increase. So let's make the weight be equal to 0.05 more than his previous weight. So we'll increment it by 1/100 of a pound when he eats. And then we can print the name of the cat plus is eating, and plus, and then the food, oops, we don't need to call the self because this is the object, we're in that function. So the food that got passed in by argument, and plus, and then a period. Okay, so that will print whenever the eat function is called. Okay, now let's go ahead and get rid of Fluffy here for a second. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and take Maxie and tell him to eat tuna. And then we'll have Maxie eat chicken. Okay, and then let's print Maxie's new weight information and see if there's been a change, since in our eat function we increment by 1/100 of a pound every time he eats. So we'll go ahead and run. So he started at 4.5 pounds, he ate tuna, he ate chicken, and now see his weight increased by 0.1 because he ate twice. Okay, now let's try looking at how we can use classes and objects in our Minecraft world. So we're going to go ahead and come back up here to our imports and say from time import sleep, because we're going to need that in a second. And we're going to go ahead and build ourselves a ghost house, okay, a house that comes and goes. So we'll start with a class, and we'll call that class building. Okay, so that'll be our object. And now let's define some attributes for that building. So we're going to initialize the X, the Y, the Z position, the width, the height, and the depth of the building. Okay, then we'll have self X be assigned the X value, self Y will be the Y value, self Z will be the Z value, and same for the other attributes. So self width will be the width that gets passed in by argument, height, and depth. Okay, so we've initialized all of our variables, and that's the data that's going to get passed into the constructor when a building object is created or instantiated. Okay, now we're going to make ourselves a method. So this will be the build method. And we don't need to pass any information in because we're going to build based on the dimensions that were provided when we constructed the object. So now when we actually do the build, we're going to set blocks. Okay, remember the set blocks is going to make a cuboid, a solid cuboid, starting at the front left coordinate and then diagonal to the back right upper coordinate. So we're going to do self x, self y, self z as our starting location, and then self x plus the width, okay, self y plus the height, and then self z plus the depth. And I'm going to go ahead and move this down one so we can see it all in one. Okay, so there's our depth, and then the block type, and we'll do block type 4. Okay, now let's go ahead and copy that. Okay, and then we'll paste, and this time we're going to set the blocks to be self x plus 1, self y plus 1, and self z plus 1. And then we have self x plus self width, and we're going to do minus 1 because we want to hollow out our house that we're creating. And then the height also minus 1. Okay, then the depth will be minus 1. And our block type now will be air, so block type 0. So this set blocks will create a solid cube, right, of stone. This one is going to hollow it out and fill the inside with air. Okay, now we're going to need to make some doors and windows. So for now, let's call those methods self.build windows and self.build door, but we haven't created those methods yet, so we will. We'll come back to those in just a second. Okay, so that will build the building. Now let's make the building disappear. So we're going to define a method called clear that will act on the object. And we're going to say world dot, well actually let's copy this. We don't have to retype the whole thing. So we'll paste that here. So world dot set blocks, and we're doing the whole building, right? X, Y, Z, X plus width, Y plus height, Z plus depth, but we're going to change from stone to air, and that will clear the whole building. It'll disappear, right? So this builds it, and this clears or erases the building that we created, and that'll create the ghost effect, right, where the building comes and goes as if it were a ghost. Now let's go back and make a function to build our windows into the house. And that's going to act on self as well. Okay, so we'll do world.setBlock, and let's go from our X position, and we're going to center this window. So let's do self.width. We'll take the width, divide that by 4, and then we'll multiply that times 3. Okay, then the Y value will add 2, so the window is not just up against the ground. and then the Z value will stay the same, and we're going to make that air as our block type so that it's carves in a window. Okay, then let's go ahead and copy that, and we'll put a window on the other side of the building. So this time we'll just do a quarter of the way over, and then that will put 2 windows into our structure, into our ghost house. Now we need to build a door. Okay, so we'll paste that set block again. This time though I'm going to do set blocks, plural, so that we can create a rectangle for our door. So we're going to start with the x plus, and then the width divided by 2 so that we can center the door right in the middle. Okay, then we'll have our door be just at 1. I guess they need to step up into it because our building has a floor. Okay, then the Z coordinate will be the same. Okay, then that's the bottom. This is the position of the bottom, front, left. Now we got to go to the top right corner of our door. So let's go ahead and copy these values, and we'll paste them there so we don't have to type it all over again. So now we've got the same X position, right? We want to be halfway across. And then our Y, we're going to make our door 2 blocks high, so we'll go to Y plus 2. And then our block type is air, and that will carve out the door to our ghost house. Okay, so now we are ready to create an object for this class. Right, so far in our class that we created called building, we have a constructor for the object, right, that's going to assign all these dimensions that are passed in to the arguments. And then we can call any of these 4 methods on that object. We can build, we can clear, we can build windows, build a door, and we're actually calling the windows and door methods from inside of the build method. So we won't need to explicitly call them on the object. It'll happen when we make a building. So let's go ahead and grab our player's position. So world.player, get tile position, and we'll assign those as X, Y, and Z. Okay, then we're going to create an object called ghost house, and we're going to get that by doing a building, right? Building is the name of our class. That's going to access this constructor, and we have to pass these arguments into our constructor call. So we're going to call that constructor and pass in our X, Y, Z position, and then the dimensions of the house we want to make. So we'll make it 10 by 6 by 8. Okay, now that we have an object called the ghost house, now we can call methods from this. So let's go ahead and build the house. So we'll call the build method on our ghost house object. And then we'll sleep. So we already imported sleep from the time module. Let's sleep for 5 seconds. Okay, then we're going to clear the house, right, so that it disappears. Okay, then let's go ahead and try that. Come over to our world and find a new place that isn't all cluttered up with stuff. So we'll come out. Here's a good empty looking spot. Let's see if we need to do any debugging. Okay, there we go. There's our house. So we'll back up from the house, and whoops, and it disappeared faster than we even got a chance to see it. So let's come over here and change this sleep to be 15 seconds, maybe 20 seconds. We'll do 25, so that we have a second to actually see what we're making. So we'll come over here, back up. Okay, there is our door. Right, there's our windows. We can hop up here and come inside of the house, right, and look around. And then since it's a ghost house, here in a second or so, it should disappear while we're standing in it. So let's see. Oh, there it went, right, and our ghost house vanished. Okay, now maybe the next time that we do the house, let's make it sleep for 10 seconds. And then when it reappears, we could change its dimensions. So I could say ghost house dot x equals, and let's change the x position to be, let's see, where are we right now? We're at 25. So we'll change the x position to be 30 instead of 25. Okay, then we could change the height. Let's make that, instead of, what did we make the height originally? We made it 6. So now let's make it 15, right? It'll be a really tall house. Okay, and then we can go ahead and copy our build and clear. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and run it again. Okay, so let's back up a little bit so we can see where we are. Oh, I think I put my house right on top of another house. Okay, there it disappeared. So now we can walk over here, look back. Oh, and there's our tall, skinny ghost house, right, that we can see. Okay, let's come over and find a new place to stand so that our house isn't right on top of the other house. Okay, now we'll run it again. And we'll back up. There's our first ghost house that we can see that we built. Okay, there it vanished, and now look, it's a new x coordinate and it's tall and skinny. Okay, now if I wanted to change up my constructor a little bit here, we could give our building object a name that we assign. Okay, and now we'll add self.name equals name. Okay, and then in our methods, let's create a new method that's called getInfo. And this method is, instead of just doing something, it's going to actually return some information to our call when we call this method. Okay, so we're going to write this method to return the name of our building that we created, and then we'll concatenate that with its location. So we'll do an apostrophe location is at, and then we'll concatenate with that the x coordinate, and then we'll concatenate again, and we'll do a comma, space, and then concatenate, and we're going to do string self.y, and then a comma space, and string self.z to get the x, y, and z coordinates. And then we'll add on a period at the end of that statement. Okay, so this is going to return a concatenation, right, of a bunch of strings together. So when we call this constructor, we're going to need to put a name in there. So we'll call this our ghost castle. Okay, and then when we create this ghost castle, so when we do our .build method, let's go ahead and post to the chat the location of this ghost house. So we'll do ghost house get info, and that we're going to post to the chat. So we'll put this in parentheses, and we'll do world.post to chat. Okay, now what we've got in here as the argument is a call to the getInfo method for the ghost house that is the object that we created. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing after we move the house. So we'll come over here, we'll change the dimensions. So we did x plus 30. Let's see, we're going to move to a new spot in the world so that we're not right on top of it again. So come over here, and our coordinate here is about 50. So let's make our x be 55 this time, and we'll make our house shorter this time. So let's make it 4 blocks high. Okay, and then we'll come down here after we build the house, and we'll do another ghost house get info and see where it's reappearing. Okay, so let's go ahead. We've got a syntax error. Oh, I moved that to the next line so that I could see it. There we go. All right, now we can run over here and back up. So we can see, forward. So there's our ghost house. We're at the rear side, so we can't see the doors and windows. Oh, we've got an error. Ghost info takes 0 arguments. Ghost info takes 0. Get info. Take 0 arguments, but 1. Ghost house. Oh, I forgot the self. That was a hard one. Fine. Okay, so we need the self so that we can pass the object in. All right, let's try that again. Oh, we're going to need a new place in our world, though. So we'll come over here. There we go. All right, now let's run. Okay, there's the location of our first ghost house. Okay, we turn around, there's the doors and windows. Now it's going to vanish and reappear. Oh, there it is way over there. Right, our new location is 55011, right, and then there it disappeared.